much appreciated. So let's welcome then our first speakers today. And today we welcome Mike Harrison, IT Business Relationship Manager, and Gavin Hall, IT Service Desk Manager at RPMI. And I think we've also got another person there as well in the background from our RPMI too, which is brilliant. And RPMI are one of the UK's largest and longest established pension funds with around about 350,000 members. So there's an awful lot of, I can imagine, of IT sort of requirements and needs on the back of that. RPMI recently achieved a customer-led 3-star service desk certification, and Mike and Gavin, along with Anna, will be talking about managing the customer experience. Always a great topic. So welcome, Mike and Gavin. Thank you for joining us today. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, James.
Thank you very much.
And
Is my screen sharing okay?
Yeah, looks great. Looks great. So over to you guys. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, thanks. Right, so good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Mike Harrison, and I am a Business Relationship Manager at RPMI. So today, as mentioned, we're going to be speaking to you about our SDI journey. So Gavin, if you can move forward to the next screen.
Yeah.
So we have a short agenda here to work through. So we're going to tell you a little bit about our organisation, who we are today and who our wider team are, life for us before the certification, and then how we sort of kicked off with SDI, what we did, and also where we are right now, and the things that we've learned along the way, the lessons we've learned along the way throughout this process. Gavin, next screen, please. Right, so a little bit about RPMI. We were formed during the privatisation of the railway industry, when members and assets in the former British Rail Pension Scheme were transferred over. RPMI are responsible for safekeeping and investment of circa 30 billion on behalf of the scheme's 350,000 active and retired members, representing more than 150 rail companies. We have offices across 3 locations and around about 550 staff. Each location is specific to their function and role within the organisation. So the picture on the screen here, this is our Stuperdale offices, which are based in Darlington, and predominantly this is where the rail pension services are managed from. We have a site in Coventry, which is also pension services, and this covers more of our commercial arm, managing third-party clients' pension schemes. And finally, but by no means least, we have our offices within London, which is just strategically positioned, and that manages our investment business. Gavin, next slide, please.
Thanks, Mike. So, who are we? So, I'm Gavin Hall. I'm the IT Service Desk Manager. I've been at RPMI for 11 years. Previously, I was in infrastructure support, but I've been doing this role for the last 4 years. As Mike's introduced himself, he's the Business Relationship Manager for RPMI. He's been with the company for 2 years, 6 months. The little lady in the bottom corner, she's the boss. She made us use that picture. She's Anna Lister, and she's the head of IT operations. She's currently been with ourselves for 17 months. However, we're actually a part of a bigger group, so we're part of IT operations, and that's made up of 7 IT service desk analysts, 5 desktop support analysts, and 3 in IT service management, which is Mike, the business relationship manager. We've got a service level manager and a transition improvement lead and change manager. However, we are part of group IT, and that includes infrastructure and IT security. So IT service and operations. So as you can see, these are our vision and mission statements. And these were really important to us to help us move and drive forward in achieving the IT SDI certification. This was achieved by Group IT all working together. In February, as you can see, we achieved a customer-led 3-star rating. So life before certification. So we had a bit of a scattergun approach. We had knowledge. It wasn't centralized. It was spread over various applications such as personal OneNotes, shared OneNotes, shared drives on the network, IT wiki pages. It was literally just all over. We documented it well, but like I say, it was just not controlled or centralised. We had some processes in place. Again, they weren't well controlled. We knew what we needed to do, but we didn't really have a strategy. We often operated in silos. The customer wasn't always centric to what we did. We'd done some good stuff, but we weren't really known for it. We didn't share our successes with the business. Some of these successes were the rollout of Office 365. We also implemented an in-house IT security SOC, a security operations center. So we brought that in-house and controlled that. We also hired good people, but them weren't necessarily in the correct roles. We had people in the wrong roles. We weren't always pitching on a plain level field. We knew the what and the why, but we didn't know our customers, and they didn't know ours in Group IT. So kicking off with SDI. So we needed to embark on a oriented, conscious decision to start, and that's why we embarked on the journey of the certification. We needed a touch point of where we're at. We had our mock audit in June last year in 2020. We've done some stuff well. For example, we had service delivery reviews regular with the different areas of the business. We had CAB each Wednesday, focusing on the up and coming changes between internal RPMI and also some of our suppliers. But we needed to improve, and we needed to align these together and collaborate across Group IT. Oh, has that just gone off?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Two seconds. Yeah, sorry about that. So we're kicking off with service. Like I said, the SDI. This is just keep going back.
That's all right. It's cool. Don't worry. I mean, if it goes back, just there we
go. Yeah.
If it goes back, just run through it like that. If it's
I was just trying to adjust the settings. Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's okay. No worries.
Can you say that? Is that better? No, sorry to keep going. It's just jumping.
No, don't worry. It's sort of it's still going back into the slide sort of only rather than full screen.
Yeah. So kicking off with the SDI, like I was saying, we knew we needed an oriented, conscious decision. We needed a touch point of where we're at, and we had our mock audit in June. Like I was saying, we've done things well, such as service delivery reviews and CAB. But we needed to implement stuff, and we needed to engage with the business on focusing on making the service desk the single point of focus for any request actions that came into Group IT. This is just jumping about this. Right.
Gavin, just leave it on the slide, that one without presentation.
Yeah.
So if you just go down the right one, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine, guys.
Okay. Right, brilliant. Right, thanks. Okay, so what we did, so we reviewed the audit findings, which provided us with that understanding of what we needed to improve on, where we had gaps, or in some instances, just no process at all. We initiated a project to give us that structure. This also provided a way to identify all of the possible work and resources we would need to carry out the delivery, something to help us convert potential work into proposed work streams and activity. Now, very early on, we identified managing the customer experience, that this would be an important contributor to the overall success of our accreditation. This was not only the highest weighting module, but it was also an area where we were particularly challenged. We're doing a lot of good stuff, but there was no real sort of structure. Everything was being done in isolation. So there's quite a bit of work to do in this area. So one of the first things that we did was to develop a strategy plan for our customer experience, something to provide us with that overarching structure for the things that we're already doing well, or already had in place, but also highlighting the areas we had gaps in and needed to improve. We worked with our customer groups, with our business colleagues, to ensure that it was a two-way conversation feeding in to help us develop that that strategy plan. Next slide, please, Gavin. Now, something else that we do is an annual CSAT, and we run this in May. The purpose of this was to establish the baseline of where we stood with our customers, what we're doing well, and what we could improve on. Now, previous CSATs that we've done were quite flat. We weren't that engaging in our approach, and there was little build up to the survey being issued. So also there was no real follow up. So it felt a bit more like a tick box exercise that we were going through the motions, and I'm sure that our colleagues throughout the business felt the same. So we changed this. We spoke to our business colleagues to tell them what we were doing. We told them why this was important to us and to them, and we asked for their help. We also provided a roadmap to show them what they could expect and when, and we published the results of the survey, highlighting the key areas our colleagues had told us to focus on. And this then fed into our CSI initiatives. The final thing on that roadmap is to publish the results, the annual results, linking all of the improvements we'd made back to the key focus areas, so that we could close that sort of loop and that circle, and again demonstrate the importance of the feedback that they'd provided as part of that CSAT and what we'd actually done and delivered on the back of it. Next slide, please, Gavin. Now, the user experience forum. So I think, as we've already said, one of the things we need to do is to connect with our customers. Our aim was to get representation across the organisation. We wanted our colleagues to come and talk to us, to tell us the importance about the services we were delivering to them, and how they could be impacted when they weren't meeting their needs. It was a way of bringing the customers closer to us, to help us improve the way that we all work together. And we did this by keeping the meeting extremely fluid from both sides. So we set up the forum, we engaged with the business to support initiatives we were implementing. We ensured we had sponsorship, and we published the CEO executive letter supporting the service management framework. We spoke to them about the SMS framework, and we worked with our business colleagues, as I've mentioned, to develop that customer experience strategy plan. Following this, we've been able to expand on this forum, moving it away from policies and processes predominantly, and we've been able to use it to speak to the group and engage the group in relation to an ITSM toolset upgrade, to get that customer sort of bought into the design and development of that enhancement. We've also discussed items such as feedback management process, and we've implemented that following feedback from the meeting. We've improved our communication and our customer satisfaction experience. We've worked on that, and we've also been able to discuss frameworks, other frameworks such as the ISO 20000 and the ISO 27001. So it's been a really sort of beneficial forum on all sides that we've been able to put in place. Next slide, please, Gavin. So journey mapping profiles and personas within customer experience or managing the customer experience module. These are three key artifacts to IT, and they're also new to our organisation. The journey maps helped us to understand the end user journey in particular scenarios. They allow us to see that customer emotion throughout the process, and they can be used to demonstrate what, when, why something is happening, or what good or bad looks like. They provide us with that visual representation of expectations. We develop profiles which provide us with a specific user information for access software and hardware based on their role, persona and background. Again, not something that we had previously within the organisation. And the final item in this section is the personas, something we've worked very closely with our business colleagues through the user experience forum. The personas have been created at a department level, with some exceptions for some of the more critical teams where a greater understanding is required. They provide us with an understanding of who we're talking to, what is important to the individual, to their department, or how this could impact on the wider organisation. They include what departments' likes or dislikes are, for example, how they prefer to be communicated or how they want to contact IT, and how they would like us to communicate with them. They help us to be empathetic to their situation. Next slide, please, Gavin.
All right, thanks, Mike. So on communication, as Mike says, we took the feedback from the CSAT and the user experience forums very seriously regarding our comms to the business. On the back of that, we created an IT service desk comms portfolio, and we started to standardise our IT service desk email templates. As you can see, we've got them for letting people know about it when we need them to be aware of stuff, what's happening. We've got them for major incidents when we've got a major incident, we need to communicate that out, and when we've fixed it. So we standardised these, and this was like targeted distribution lists rather than just sending out to all the business, all employees that didn't need to know. So we just targeted them. We kept them simple. And we also had no jargon. That was one of the feedbacks, that we were sort of speaking in IT terms, and our end customers didn't really understand that. Following on from what we've implemented, other areas of the business now use these, using a similar format and using our same templates. We updated our ISM tool set. It was very outdated. It needed refreshing. It had been customized over the years for IT. So again, linking back to the CSAT results, we implemented a one-click feature. So when our customers hit the landing page to log an incident request, it was one click into the area that they need to go. IT service desk now categorize and subcategorize in the back end for our customers, so they'll literally put in what they're after or what the incident is. We'll then go in, categorize it, and we assess the impact and urgency and prioritize it accordingly. In the previous tool set, we only used 2 modules, incident management and change. However, since launching our new tool set, we're now using the following modules. We're using problem, we're using projects, training, we're using knowledge, supplier, and we've started to use event-based feedback on closure of our tickets. We've now got a tool set that's working for us, where previously it wasn't very user-friendly. We've raised the profile of the tool to support our customer experience. This was launched about 8 weeks ago in the back end of April, and we've had really positive feedback of the simplicity of the tool. So where we're right now. So like I was saying previously, in June 2020, we'd done our mock audit. We knew we were doing some things right and some things good. We weren't perfect by any means, but it gave us a benchmark, what to focus on and what we wanted to achieve. The 2 areas that we fell short on in the mock was MI and process and procedure modules. Overall, we did achieve a 2-star rating in the mock, but we needed to achieve a pass in every module and a minimum of 2.3 scoring in each section for the certification. As you can see from the chart, we improved in all areas and we got a 3-star rating. We're above industry average in 8 of the modules. Our customer experience went from 2.85 up to 3.18.
Okay, so what have we learned throughout the process? I think you need a plan. You need to have that plan in place to give you that structure and that direction. You need to listen. You need to listen to your team, to your customers, to the guys in SDI to take their advice on board. You need to take your team with you at every step of the journey. This can't be done with just the service desk in isolation or with a small group of people. Everybody needs to be bought into it to help you along the way. And you need to involve your customers. wherever you can. Don't assume that one size fits all. Use something like an 80-20, which generally works out okay. It is a lot of hard work, and it's going to be probably even harder work to maintain, which is something that we're going to now experience over the next sort of 12 months. But it's a great feeling when you get it right. Have a great sponsor. You really do need that to get the buy-in. Tell people what you're doing, communicate. Always do what you say you're going to do. Respond and deliver on the timeframes that you set. And never underestimate the ability to misinterpret. Is probably these are the things that we've learned along the way. Next slide, Gavin. So this is our presentation, and I guess we're ready for any questions that you may have.
Great stuff. Thank you, guys. That's really, really cool. I mean, I love doing this. You know, I was lucky enough in a previous life, way back in what, I don't know, when was it, 2008 maybe, to have been sort of a consumer, if you like, right, of service desk certification. So I know what it's like to be sat one side, and now for the last, I don't know, 7 years, I know what it's like to be sat the other side as the auditor as well. To sort of see organizations go through this process is very, very, really interesting. It always inspires me. So that's really cool. And I think today we'll see a lot of synergies, a lot of similarities on the stuff that we see. So we heard about sharing the successes with the business. That's something we always, I think, in IT is quite challenging. The collaboration and things like the user experience form and the creativity around sort of creating service. So let's start with that. Maybe again, yeah. Any questions, please, listeners, ask them. You've got an opportunity to you know, ask people who've been through this, and hopefully I've got some value from going through this as well. So ask away, please. Collaboration, guys, and sharing success. Collaboration. How challenging was that? And I think it does come down to, you know, cultures and organization and how easy it is to collaborate, but how challenging was it to work with other parts of the organization, and what are the outcomes of this process? How has that supported collaboration?
So, I mean, as I say, the user experience process forum that we put in place, it's by no means perfect. Don't get me wrong, but we are our organization, as I say, is three locations, three very different types of business as well throughout those throughout the business. So setting that forum up initially to focus purely on policies and processes, because we were mindful that, you know, in the past we wrote these things and then just dropped them onto the organization. You know, these were IT processes, we knew best, and therefore we needed to adhere to them. What this process allowed us to do was identify that we knew there was going to be a huge amount of documentation churn that we're going to have to put in place. We needed to have that sort of adoption and buy-in from the business. So by setting up that forum and starting off as a purely a sort of a governance board is kind of what the approach we took. But then keeping it fluid, which then allowed us to morph it into a completely different thing. So we kind of, I guess, we gained their trust and their support because we were speaking to them about these things, about the processes and policies before we were actually introducing them, which is not something that we'd done before. And then once we gained that trust and we were talking to them and explaining about, you know, the frameworks about SDI, what we were doing and all these different things, that built up the trust and it allowed that meeting to become fluid and as I said, move into where it is today.
And that user experience forum, so that was a new initiative by the sounds of things. There was nothing like that before. How did you find, you know, if you look at the stakeholders in that group, I'm assuming they would be, well, you tell me, who were the stakeholders, or who are the stakeholders in that group?
So we have we have a mix. I mean, one thing we didn't want to do was to, you know, have it at a set level across the organization, because you're not going to get that true you know, feedback from my colleagues from the right sort of range. So we have, you know, we have a mix between sort of PAs within some of the investment business to the manager of middle office. We may have finance assistants in there as well, and there's a real there's a real mix of how that was set up, and it was done in that way, sort of deliberately. As I say, we want people to be able to speak in that forum freely and give us their true feedback, and let us know about, you know, how that affects them.
And that group, did they sort of believe? So when you started to do this, did they sort of believe in this sort of thing? Yeah, did they believe that it was going to have any meaning, any value? So if you look at that sort of, you know, you said we did. This is a new initiative. How long is it taking for them to get on board? Are they seeing the value of it now? Are they eager to be part of it? Do they get it? Was it difficult to get them to that stage?
Yeah, so I think this is where the you know, open up the communication channels, say what you're going to do, set the timelines. You know, by giving us that roadmap and delivering to the timeframes that we said we were going to, by highlighting what they were telling us and putting them into our CSI, and then talking to them about what we were doing to try and improve those sort of focus areas. So they could link all of that back, and they could see that it wasn't just a, you know, that tick box sort of flat sort of process that had been done before. I think most organisations tend to have sort of an employee workshop or forum where we're talking predominantly more around sort of HR type of things and what's going on with the organisation. I've never seen anything where we have this this sort of fluid forum across the group where we're talking about, you know, important items within each area. It's been an opportunity for not just IT to share what we're doing, or it's been an opportunity for some of the departments to share to the group what they do and what's specific to them, and how other areas of the business can have an impact, or they could have an impact on them as well. So it's kind of been twofold what's come out of it.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually, because I think certainly we've seen as well where organizations think more holistically about something like the programs, or even just using the standard in any form across more than one place, and that's really interesting to listen to that, and hopefully other organizations and your organization would have seen a move where people are picking up this kind of practice themselves, disseminating and using it locally. We do see that, and I think that's a fantastic message, really. We've got a few more questions come through, guys. We've got one from Terry. Terry's asked, are you using a chatbot as part of your ITSM tool set?
Gavin, do you want that one?
Yeah, I was just about to say, so we launched our new tool set in April. We've got features in the roadmap to implement certain features of the tool set. This week we've launched our knowledge module for our end customers, and it is on the roadmap to look at it further down the line this year to implement it.
Yeah, cool. Good. So that's further on down the line. That's brilliant. Hopefully, go on, you. Sorry.
Yeah. So the one thing that is quite unique to our organisation, and I think most organisations are moving more to sort of chat and that self-service and things like that. Now, our organisation, we kind of flipped that on its head because we needed to get back to basics and get our customers to start calling through to the desk for urgent issues. You know, those critical items, because they were too into the sort of self-service that you were seeing, you know, a full loss of service and things like that coming through as self-service. They weren't being picked up correctly. We weren't getting the right level of detail. So we kind of, you know, championed that call us first scenario. If it's a service request, go through self-service, and then this will help us get, you know, help us educate the business on which sort of channel they should be using for which type of issue. And then once we do get to a position to be releasing chatbot, you know, we shouldn't have we should have them coming through the right channels.
Yeah, and that makes an awful lot of sense. I think certainly as we move into this more sort of, you know, multi-channel, omni-channel sort of environment, isn't it, with the technology? So that absolutely makes sense. Hopefully that's answered your question, Terry. We've got another couple that have come in from Yves and from Shireen, and they're around the similar subject, really. One is, do you capture customer experience via a survey? in the system that you use? Same system, obviously, we've talked about. And how do you get people to fill those in? I mean, that's an age-old one, isn't it? Engagement with surveys. Do you use surveys, guys, or predominantly is the forum the way that you engage with the sort of the stakeholder group?
So we have so as part of the toolset launch, we've introduced a 5-star rating at the end of at the closure point of the ticket, and we have seen good responses through that. It was part of the overall sort of feedback management process that we discussed with the forum on what we're going to do. So we have a follow-up process behind that. We have an option for them to share information at the front end of the tool set as soon as they go in. We have a mailbox set up, so you can send us an email which will feed back in to the overall process. We also collect feedback through the service review meetings, through business quarterly business review meetings, and also via the forum itself. Something else that we're looking to introduce is surveys around at the end of projects, to sort of get that customer experience and see that from a project delivery side of things as well. In terms of getting people to fill it in, I guess always the challenge if it's the star ratings and things like that. We do ask our teams to sort of push that at the end of any direct sort of conversations with customers. We're always asking for feedback through our various meetings and speaking directly to our customers, and then we can sort of manually put that back into the process. I guess my advice would be that it doesn't need to be on a piece of paper. It doesn't need to come through on a survey itself. You can get that feedback in many different forms.
Yeah, and reading between the lines there, it sounds then that you've simplified or introduced a simple 5-star. Literally, it's like a net promoter score, is it? I suppose on a survey. So it isn't a survey asking questions. It's pretty much a how do we rate? Yeah, is it that in surveys, and then that's supplemented then with more wider sort of relationship management activities, including the forum and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a 5-star rating, and our staff have got, our customers have got the option, obviously 1 to 5. If anybody scores us below a 2 or a 1, that then triggers an email into our IT feedback mailbox, and that then feeds into our IT feedback process, where myself, I've got to review the ticket history. And then I set up a meeting and I go back with an explanation, or I set up a meeting to understand why the score was low. What was their sort of like emotional experience to score us so low. So we'll try and take feedback from there. But yeah, it works well.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that's. I mean, these things are always challenging. I think it's one of the biggest things, that we've certainly experienced in organisations is getting the engagement from the consumer, the end user, to feed that information back in. We've got a load of questions, guys. I'm going to try and get through as many as we can now in the next 4 minutes. Okay, so we're pretty much almost there, but I'm just going to squeeze some of these out. Shireen asks about the CSATs as well. Is that a URL? So do you send via the tool a URL to the customers in a resolution email, or does the customer have to log into a system to do that? Is it generated via the tool?
It's generated as a closure. So when the closure comes through for the ticket, there's a specific banner which asks them to tell us about it and to rate us. And you basically have 5 stars. You click on whichever one you want to rate us through to, and that will take you through to a submission page. Now you can add more detail at that point, or just click submit. So it is on the back of the tool that we do that net promoter scoring. Our general CSAT, our annual CSAT, and things like that, they're all just a web link.
Yeah, cool, brilliant. We've got another one from Sean, who thanks you for the presentation, very informative. And he's asking, you mentioned about talking to every area within the IT team. and trying to take them on the journey with you, not just the service desk. How did you find that process? So how did you find the buy-in to this? Did you get any resistance from other areas of the business or in IT itself about the changes that you were trying to make? This is always a big one, always, right? And I think some of the better organizations deal with this one far more effectively than maybe the less performing organizations in this process. How did that work for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is that sort. I mean, the fact that it's called SDI and it's called Service Desk to start off probably presents you with that challenge from the outset, and you will see pushback from other areas, not necessarily understanding why would they need to be involved in something that the Service Desk, you know, they see that initially as the Service Desk sort of certification. But I think it's the sponsorship, getting that sponsorship buy-in from a senior. From sort of top down in your organization. The communication is key. I mean, we had we've had governance involved, we've had security involved, we've had infrastructure, service management, as well as the service desk guys, everybody across our IT team. They could see the changes. They could see, it was a lot of these things fed into our CSI. So even outside of the certification, some of the changes that we were making, we could link them back to the initiatives that we're running through our service improvement. So I guess it's sharing the information, and I guess just the importance of the team, of the group, of how to get everybody to deliver that.
Good stuff. Okay.
Can I just expand on that, Mike, as well? Yeah. One of the teams that was fully on board from the start was our IT governance area. Like I was saying before, we had processes in place, but they weren't controlled. And since SDI and the journey from the mock audit, we've now created a process and policy review board where the IT governance run that, and we've on the back of that we've created a SharePoint central repository and a workflow. So when policies and processes go for review, they're dropped into the SharePoint, and it feeds to the different areas that need to review the policies and the processes, and people accept them or they make comments, and then the process and policy review board meet every month to discuss any new policies or any changes. So that's worked really well.
Good. Guys, I think we could talk an awful lot longer about this, to be honest. I think it's just fantastic to see things like the journey mapping and getting value out of that. The things around profiles and personas, absolutely love that. Absolutely. I'm so glad that, that has resonated and you've used it that well, which is superb. There's an awful lot more, again, around the communication centralization, the simplifying of that, standardization. That was really great as well. We've got loads of questions. Thank you for our listeners for asking. We won't be able to answer any more, unfortunately, guys, but keep asking them. And I think what we'll do, Holly, in the background, if you could record the questions, and we'll try and share these questions with the guys who are involved today to see if we can get some answers sort of in slow time as well. So if you could collect the questions, Holly, I think that would be really, really cool. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Great story. And good luck with the surveillance next year. Right, I'm really eager to find out what happens there and where you go from 3-star. So thank you very much, and hopefully